All right, so for our first fight in the card, we have Colin Huckbody, whatever it may be, fighting out of St. Cloud, Minnesota, going up against Bowen, fighting out of Illinois. This fight's actually going to be at middleweight, so Bowens will be moving up in weight. He's actually a welterweight fighter, so look for Huckbody to be the bigger man coming into this fight. And actually, yeah, Huckbody weighed in at 185.5, while his opponent, Bowen, left a few extra pounds on the scale, only weighing at 180, so that might not do him too well in this fight. But going in on Bowen, really relaxed, long, lanky stance. Not too much tape on these fighters, but from what I could tell, Chiron doesn't really handle pressure too well. He does have that long, lanky style, but doesn't handle pressure too well. In some of the fights I saw when his opponent pushed the pace, he kind of feetled up a little bit, and he actually shoots on pressure, which isn't too good going up against an experienced grappler such as Huckbody. Doesn't seem to have the best fight IQ. You know, keeps his head high while he's backing up in the stance, which also it's not going to shoot him too well. He throws strikes without setting him up, constantly ducks his head down, and he definitely doesn't defend the takedown well. So I don't think he's going to match up too well against Huckbody. You know, he looks like a fish out of water when he's on the ground, so you can tell he doesn't really have the best ground game. Definitely doesn't defend the takedown well either. But, you know, he does have great knees, does have some knockout power, so you can't really count him out of this fight. And going up against opponent Colin Huckbody, you know, lots of amateur experience. Nothing really to note about his striking. You can tell he's not the most comfortable on his feet, but he does have a great BJJ background. Looks for that takedown. He has a very long, not karate type stance, but a very long stance. Great top control. Always looking for the finish. Let's look at the odds for this fight. Colin Huckbody is coming at a -155, so he's a slight favorite, while on the return, Bowen is a +130 underdog. I really like Colin Huckbody in this match right here. He's a great grappler, tons of amateur experience before rushing to the pros. So my take on this is that Colin Huckbody is going to be able to finish the fight on the ground. From what I saw, Bowen doesn't have the best takedown defense, definitely not the best on the ground, and not really good at getting back to his feet. So look for Colin Huckbody to be able to finish this. Next fight here, we have a lightweight match. Mike Breeden going up against Anthony Romero. Mike Breeden fighting out of Lee Summit, Missouri, brings a 7-2 record coming into this fight, while his opponent, Anthony Romero, fighting out of Ontario, Canada, totes a perfect 7-0 record here. Romero is a slight favorite here on the card, -150. And on the return, Mike Breeden coming in at a +120 underdog. I think this line should be more of a pick'em here. Both fighters don't really show the most skill here. I think the odds are only there because of the 7-0 record, and most casual bettors will see the 7-0 record and kind of just throw their money on the undefeated fighter. For this fight, you know, Breeden is going to be the older of the two with 31 years of age, while Anthony Romero is 23 years old. So the experience may be on Mike Breeden's side, but again, both fighters don't seem to have the best skills in being in that cage. Mike Breeden trains with some killers, okay? Glory MMA, for most of you guys that know, that's a very good camp. You know, training with Megan Anderson, especially with James Krause being in that corner. He might have the advantage there. Breeden does have great movement, leg kicks, has a lot of feints and decent boxing, but you know, he tends to lower his hands when he's backing up, which doesn't fare too well with people that do throw those swinging shots that, you know, it could get clipped on the chin. Not very good when he's backing up, but he is completely different fighter when he's moving forward. Decent power in his hands, explosive kicks, always looking for the finish. You know, he does have decent takedown defense, but for this fight, he's going to be going up against Anthony Romero, who, you know, same thing, doesn't look too comfortable on his feet. You know, he lunges a little bit too much for my liking when he's setting up without setting up punches. So he'll just throw it straight there without actually trying to set it up. So he'll leave himself susceptible to a hook, maybe a quick counter. You can tell he doesn't have the best striking ability, not a bit. Always looking for the takedown. He's definitely more comfortable on top than he is on his feet. He does have great body locks, trips, cage control, and when he's on top, he is a killer. All right, he's you know, great cage awareness. In a few of his fights, you can see that his opponent on the ground, he kind of moves them away from the cage so that they won't be able to inch up on the back to the cage. So he does have some great experience on top. He likes to wear down his opponents. on the feet. He doesn't pass well on top. Sits in the same position. He's kind of like that smash and brawl, kind of like Khabib. I'm not gonna make a comparison to Khabib because he's not even close. But Khabib will sit in the guard and just kind of pepper shots at the face. That's what he does. A lot of power in his shots on top. Doesn't throw his hands too much on the feet, like I just mentioned, but he does have a great gas tank for someone with this pressure. Always going for takedowns, always going to throw hands. For this fight, I'm gonna have to go ahead and I'm gonna have to give Romero the edge here. I love what he does when he's on top. He might even get a contract with this fight. For this fight, I definitely see him being able to take down Breeden and smash him on top. Breeden doesn't look too great when he's on bottom. Definitely doesn't have the best striking. So I'm going to go ahead and give Anthony Romero to finish this fight on top. In terms of rounds, I'll go ahead and give it a round. Maybe a second round finish. Or maybe even, actually, you know what? Maybe Breeden will be able to hang in there and bring this to the judges. But I think Romero will be able to have enough to get this one done. For our next fight, we have a flyweight bout, 7-2, Jeffrey El Jefe Molina, fighting out of Missouri. And he's going up against 6-2, Jacob Lil Animal Silva, fighting out of Houston, Texas. Silva, being the older of the two, he's 32 years of age, so he doesn't have too much time left on his clock to go ahead and get that contract. So he might come out here swinging and banging, but he's going up against a killer in Jeffrey Molina, only 23 years of age. So he's just getting his career started there. Molina's actually, in this fight, he's actually the favorite at -190, and on the return we have Silva coming in at a +160 underdog. I think these odds are actually dead accurate. As I was watching tape, Jeffrey Molina looks pretty good. James Krause is his coach. Same deal, fighting at Glory MMA. That's his primary gym. He also has Kansas City BJJ as a secondary. I can only assume he's only going there to work on his grappling. Molina's a purple belt in BJJ. More comfortable on top than he is on bottom, but obviously he does have that ability to be able to finish on bottom. He can finish on top. Great control on top. Looks for the finish. Throw some strikes while continuing to look for the finish. Great striking precision, powerful kicks actually. When he's taken down, he tends to be controlled, despite his efforts to get up. But it's typically the bigger man in the cage is able to control him on top. His takedown defense is a little sus sometimes, but he's able to hold his own. Especially when the opponent's trying to grind him up against the cage and get that takedown. He definitely knows what he's doing out there. He'll look for the takedown himself. He definitely has, being a purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, he definitely has some great submissions himself. And on the return, we have Jacob Silva, and I really think this guy lives up to his name, man. Little Animal is probably an understatement here. Powerful strikes, but very little head movement. He kind of just walks forward like Frankenstein. His striking leaves him very susceptible to takedowns because he practically puts himself on his feet every time he throws a strike. He's always trying to put that person out with every single strike he throws. When he is on his back, though, he tends to look like a fish out of water. When he's ground, he doesn't look like he knows what to do down there. His gas tank is very limited due to his striking style. And when I was watching him, he looks like an absolute madman in there. Absolute madman when it comes to striking. Literally throws so much power in his strikes that sometimes he'll take himself off his feet, like I just mentioned. He just literally throw a strike and then just whiff. If he whiffs, he'll go straight on his feet. I don't know what kind of shit's going on there, but definitely has to figure that out. He keeps his hands very low, tends to wind from the hip, which, quick jab, quick 1-2 will pretty much piece this guy up. Loves to whip out the flying knees. I think he's just going to look to knock out his opponent. But again, that leaves him susceptible to takedowns, and especially if the opponent defends correctly. He has decent kicks. For this fight, definitely going to have to give it to El Jefe here. I think he has the more experience of the two, even though he is the younger of the two. Definitely a better fighter than Jacob Silva. And coming into this, I already expected Jacob Silva to be the underdog. Just based on the way he fights, I don't see him being able to beat El Jefe here. I definitely don't be able to see him beat him there. And this might be his last chance to get a contract. He's 32 years of age. If you're not in the UFC by then, what are you doing? It's time to go work at BJ's or get a real job at that point, because this guy definitely looks like he's a crowd pleaser. It could be even a thing where both these guys put on a great show and they both get a contract, but I definitely don't see it here. He's currently riding a 5-fight win streak. Both fighters are running a 5-fight win streak, but I'm going to have to go give Jeff Molina to finish this fight. Whether he does it in the distance, you know what? I definitely do think Molina is able to finish this guy Jacob Silva, especially if he's able to get him to the ground. I don't think Jacob Silva has enough experience on the ground to be able to hang with Molina. So I'm gonna go ahead and say Jeffrey Molina by let's go ahead and say a first round submission. Let's go with first round submission here. For our next fight, we have a lightweight bout, 18-9, Rafael the Turn Alves. Questionable nickname there. Fighting out of Belém, Para, Brazil, going up against 17-2 Alejandro Galito Flores. Fighting out of Monterrey, Nuevo Leon, Mexico. Both fighters coming in at the age of 29 years old. Flores is actually a featherweight fighter, so he is moving up in weight for this fight. He did weigh in at 145.5, while Alves actually weighed in at 146, so not that big of a weight discrepancy. But Flores will have a 3-inch height advantage there. They do have the same reach, so take that for what it is. Alves is coming to this fight at a plus 105 underdog, and on the return, Flores is a slight favorite at minus 125. So this is more of a pick'em here. Rafael Alves going into the hand, great forward pressure. Has a high guard, okay? Lots of power in his hands, has great throws, great judo skills actually. Loves his kicks. Kind of a wild man in there, leaves himself open for takedowns, but he does have a lot of power in his hands. Now, Alejandro Flores, he does he's been doing Muay Thai from a young age. I know one of the announcers in one of the fights was talking about how he would sneak around, try doing some Muay Thai practices behind his parents' back. So definitely gotta like that for a fighter trying to make it big on the pro scene. Very light on his feet, great kicks, very nice kicks actually. He is quick in and out of movements. His style is very unorthodox. With his approach, he makes it very hard for his opponents to gauge what his next attack is. He changes levels very well. Great accuracy. That's his striking, but he does have the ability to go for a takedown, especially when his opponents are pressuring him. Definitely some takedown ability, but you can tell that's not where he wants to be. He'll take the fighter down, and sometimes he'll stand right back up. He does have exceptional takedown defense. He does have a decent gas tank for his style. I mean, he's all over the place with his style. He'll throw kicks from everywhere. He'll throw punches from everywhere. If this guy wins, they'll definitely be getting a contract, because I see him being able to put on a show out there. He's great on his back foot, handles pressure very well. So for this fight, Flores being the bigger of the two, although he does have a lot of featherweight experience. I don't see that being a problem from him here, especially because he is the bigger of the two. So for this fight, I'll go ahead and edge Flores for this fight. I don't think he'll be able to finish, but I definitely think he'll be able to put on a flashy show for Dana White, be able to secure that contract. So I'll go ahead and say Flores by decision for this one. And for our main event of the night, we have middleweight bout, 10-4 Jamie Pickett fighting out of North Carolina, going up against 6-3 Jonathan the Samoan Savage Patti, fighting out of Copperas Cove, Texas. Patti, being the younger of the two, slightly, 29 years old, is a plus 140 underdog. And on the return, we have 31-year-old Pickett coming in at a minus 160 favorite. And, being 31 years old at middleweight, this might be there's a lot of talk about this guy on the regional scene. So this may be his last chance to make it to the UFC, just like the previous fighter we spoke about. So look for Jamie Pickett to come out here and try getting the job done quick. Jamie Pickett, very aggressive fighter. Will bring the fight. Very explosive, crazy power in his hands. I know if you go back and look at Savala versus Pickett, they were even getting into it before the fight even started. The refs had to go ahead and separate the fight before they even got to fighting. He has great takedown defense. Not the best takedowns, but he'll shoot from a very far distance. Shows a lack of wrestling ability, but he does like to get the takedown. But I don't think he is the best takedown artist out there. But even then, he's still able to get the takedown, which shows some of his strengths. He is dangerous on top. Powerful strikes. If you look at his fight against Nick Petras or something like that, going back to his power, he came out with a flying knee and floored him in like 10 seconds. Absolute stone cold, stiff as a board. just dead. And then, you know, he proceeded to beat the dog shit out of him. So Jamie Pickett's a savage out there at 31 years old. And that's that North Carolina dog, you know. Now Jonathan Pati, he has nice movement, you know, forward pressure, with a mixture of showmanship. This guy likes to taunt his opponents, kind of a Nick Diaz style, like put his hands out like this, say what's up, get his opponent to gauge a little bit. His movement's all over the place. He has great angles. You know, he has a pro boxing background, moves relatively fast for his weight. And not that he's a you know, fat lard, he's not a heavyweight here, but you know, he does have some pretty fast movement for someone that's not even in the pros yet. You know, he has great knees from the clinch, constant looking for the finish. You know, for someone with his body type, you know, kind of flabby, you know, has that little tire around the waist. He has a great gas tank for the amount of movement he dishes out. Now for this fight, you know, I think Jamie Pickett gets it done. I think Jamie Pickett will knock out Jonathan Pati. You know, I think if Jonathan Pati comes out with that showmanship against Jamie Pickett, that's not going to go out too well. That'll really bring the dog out of Pickett, and it might not end too well for Pati. So I'm going to say Jamie Pickett with I'm going to say a first round finish here. You know, both fighters are you know, they have great stand up here, but I think Jamie Pickett's gonna be able to get it done. So yeah. Like I said, Jamie Pickett in the first round for this fight. So that's going to do it for this card, guys. I'm not sure if I'm going to be making a video for this weekend's card. You know, if anything, I'll probably do the main card predictions. But even then, I don't really know. But it definitely is a decent card, so I'm looking forward to it. But, you know, I also post a lot of my predictions on Instagram, which is the same as the name above, at Who You Got Bro. I'm really active on there, so just shoot me a message and I'll definitely respond. I'm just going to see how this video does and kind of go from there. So go ahead and like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.